Welcome and thank you for standing by. Currently, all participants are in a listen-only mode. Today's webinar is being recorded, and the recording will be posted publicly. If you have any objections, you may disconnect at this time. Now I'd like to turn the call over to your host for today, Faith Whittington.
Thank you, Lisa. Good afternoon and welcome. Thank you so much for joining us for this webinar event, Essential Skills for Finding ACS Data on data.census.gov. My name is Faith Whittington, and today I will be your host for today's event. Today we will walk you through essentials of using data.census.gov, from conducting effective searches for current ACS estimates to locating specific demographics and housing tables. You'll learn strategies for pinpointing the right data, exporting and downloading your findings, and creating basic visualizations directly within the platform. Throughout the webinar, we'll use real-world ACS topics as examples, demonstrating each step from initial searches to the final download. We have a wonderful panel of subject matter experts with us today, and they are here to help us answer whatever questions they can. So as we go through this presentation, we would like to encourage you all to make use of the Q&A panel in WebEx to submit questions you may have. The question and answer panel is located all the way at the bottom right hand of your WebEx screen. If you cannot see it, you may need to click on the three dots at the bottom right to pull it up. And at the end of the webinar, we will go over some of those questions that were submitted through the Q&A panel. A quick note on the one-on-one question and answer sessions: we will focus on the platform data.census.gov. We will not be able to go in depth to address questions on the topic of census data, the collection process, methodology, or other census products. Finally, we are recording the webinar today, and all of the materials for this training will be available through the Census Academy website. Welcome again, and thank you so much for joining us. It's my pleasure to introduce our speaker today, Tyson Weister. Welcome, Tyson.
Thank you, Faith, and thank you all for spending the afternoon with us today on the webinar, Essential Skills for Finding ACS Data on data.census.gov. My name is Tyson. I work on the team in the Center for Enterprise Dissemination. We are responsible for data.census.gov, and because the American Community Survey is such a popular data set, we thought it would be fitting to do a webinar specifically on accessing ACS data through our site today. So with that, I am going to give just some very brief background on data.census.gov and the ACS before we jump right into the site and show you different ways to go about searching. So if you're not familiar already, data.census.gov is the primary platform to access data from the Census Bureau. It means we have data from the most popular surveys and programs, and in terms of the American Community Survey data specifically, we have data from 2010 ACS releases through the present, which includes some of the releases up through 2024. If you'd like a detailed listing of each specific type of American Community Survey data table and their availability over time, we encourage you to consult this chart, and the most up-to-date version of this chart is available in the link at the bottom. So we're not going to take a deep dive into what the American Community Survey is, but we will review very briefly the content and geographic availability of the ACS. So hopefully you're familiar with what the ACS is already. They cover social, economic, demographic, and housing characteristics across a wide variety of topics that you see on screen. So you get social characteristics like educational attainment, veteran status, and language spoken at home. Economic characteristics include things like health insurance coverage, income, and poverty. Demographic characteristics like age, sex, race, Hispanic origin, relationship to householder. And then housing characteristics, including things like homeowner versus renter status, home value, and rent paid. So we're going to take a deeper dive into these wide array of topics here in just a moment and really show you how you can access them in bulk through the American Community Survey data profiles. So beyond that, what really sets the American Community Survey apart from other federal surveys and programs is its geographic availability. So you can get data from the ACS from areas as large as the nation and states, all the way down to small geographies, what you would consider the neighborhood level, we refer to as census tracts and block groups. So this particular image that I'm showing here shows the different geographic areas, or some of the most common ones that are covered by the ACS, and the relationships between them. So anywhere you see a lower level geography connected to a higher level geography by a direct line, that means that that area nests or fits neatly within the higher level geography. So as an example, we can see here congressional districts have a direct line going up to states. That means that they would never cross state level boundaries, but that they don't necessarily have any relationships to counties, school districts, or census tracts. So today for our demonstration, we are going to, of course, take a dive into some of these geographic areas, looking at state, county, city level data, which we typically refer to as places, and we'll look at some of the neighborhood level geography from census tracts, both in table format, and when we get to the census tracts, we'll explore it visually as well. So even if you're not familiar with what that geography is, don't worry, because you'll see visually. So that was just a very quick review of some of the content available through the American Community Survey. We do encourage, if you'd like a deep dive into an introduction of the ACS, we have a few resources that our specialists over in that office have put together for you. One is a recorded webinar on an introduction to the American Community Survey. So if you'd like to learn more, I recommend checking out that recorded webinar on the left. And if you'd like to dive even further, there's actually a full-length course on Census Academy called Discovering the ACS. So these would be two great resources if you'd like to dive further into the survey beyond the content and geographic availability slides we covered earlier. So with that background, we are going to transition into how to access the data on data.census.gov. So for today, I did want to hit home that there are two primary ways to go about searching on our site. We do have the single search bar right when you come to the landing page, and that's a good source for you to do a quick search like you would try on Google, type in a geography, topic, or table ID. And then we also, as an alternative, have filters, and these are options where you can choose a guided approach. You can click through different words and phrases and find one or more checkboxes that meet your search criteria and select them. So we're going to explore both of these, and you'll see some of the advantages of each option as we go through the demonstration today. So let's go ahead and get started. Just as a note, all of the step-by-step clicks that I'm making today will be available for you to reference when these slides are uploaded. And then, of course, it's been mentioned that the session today is recorded as well. So you'll have two options in case you're following along and would like to reference some of these steps later on. What we have planned for the demonstration is to start out very basic and then build in more detailed ways of searching and functionality on the site as we go. So let's start very basic with the single search bar example. We're going to pull up data for age in Citrus County, Florida. Sounds like a lovely place. What you'll want to do to get started is go to data.census.gov. I mentioned the two ways to go about searching. And just as a note, if you are visiting our site starting in February, we are making just a couple of tweaks. So I'll mention those as we go on when appropriate. But right here, when you land on this site, you'll see the single search bar in the middle, and that's where you can type in some keywords. So here I'm going to type in age in Citrus County, Florida. And then you can click the spyglass or press enter to run the search. I always recommend that once you've run a search in the single search bar, that you take a look in the upper left. So we are making our one best guess for what we think you mean. So you'll want to verify it. In this case, the search has found a topic filter for age and sex and a geography filter for Citrus County, Florida. So it's interpreted the search as I intended. Now here we're on the all results page. You'll get some of the top table recommendations, and in some cases we'll see here a featured statistic at the top. So we can see in this case the median age in Citrus County, Florida is 57 years old. So pretty higher than most counties across the country. If you'd like to take a deeper dive, you're just one click away at the top where you see the tables tab. We'll go ahead and click there. We're going to spend majority of our time today looking at tables, but we will also get to maps and charts towards the end of the presentation. So as you can imagine, there are many tables that the Census Bureau has for this county on age and sex. So there's over 1,000 table results. The very first one is coming from the American Community Survey, S0101, age and sex. And we can see here, the table provides information in the columns and rows. You'll always want to take a moment just to look at them. We see our geography, Citrus County, Florida, is in the first column. There is a column for the total number of people, the corresponding percentages, and then this table also breaks out the data as we scroll to the right for the total number of males, percent males, female, and percent female. So going back over to the left, if you wanted to look at some of the data by age, we can see the age breakout. And then on the left-hand side, just as a quick example, we had looked earlier at the median age data in the featured statistic. Remember, it was 57 years old. If you'd like to look at different data this table provides, you can see here as a quick example for the population 65 years and over in Citrus County, there's an estimated 63,329 people, and that comes out to 37.2%. So more than 1 in 3 people living in the county are aged 65 years and over. All right, so that was a very quick example on how you can find some quick data using the single search bar. Now I'd like to take a moment and really showcase the American Community Survey data profiles. So these are going to be your go-to data tables for the ACS, especially anytime if you're feeling overwhelmed with how many table results you're getting. I love to go to the ACS data profiles first to see if they might have what I want. And the reason for this is that there are just 4 of them, and they cover the most popular statistics. They provide totals and percentages across a wide variety of topics from the ACS. So going back to our search, I'm going to pull up these data profiles for Citrus County, Florida. And currently, if you click the US Census logo, that will take you back to the landing page. Soon, we'll be introducing a new way to go about getting there, and you can always visit data.census.gov in your URL to go fresh back to the landing page. So that's going to clear everything out and start us fresh. To pull up the ACS data profiles, one way that you can do it is type in the table ID for a specific data profile like DP02, or you can type in the table prefix DP0 and press enter, and that will return all 4 of the data profiles. And in the case of DP02, there is a Puerto Rico specific version of this table. And once you select a geography, you'll narrow down to the 4 that are compatible with what you've selected. Before I click into the table here, on the left-hand side, I just wanted to point out there's a filter panel. You may need to click it in order to expand it. And on the left-hand side, you can see the filters that I was mentioning in one of the slides. So this is an alternative way for you to select geographies. It also provides you access to the full list of selectable geographies. In this case, I'm going to select Citrus County. So On the left-hand side, clicking county, I'm going to click the option here, scrolling down, choose Florida, and then mark the checkbox for Citrus County, Florida. So you can type it in the single search bar. You can also select it through the filter panel here on the left, and that's what I'm showing here. Once you've selected your geography, I'm going to click the X to close this panel. And now I'm going to click on the Tables tab. So as I mentioned, there are 4 different data profiles. They cover housing, economic, demographic, and social characteristics. So I'm just going to take a look at one of these just to kind of explore the broad types of data that are covered in one of these profiles. Just like before, we'll see here at the top, we have our geography in the column. We have a column for the total estimate or total number, the margin of error, and then the corresponding percent and the percent margin of error. So on the left-hand side, you'll see in capital letters, there's different topics of this table. So you can scroll through and see data for households by type, data for relationship and marital status, number of women who have given birth in the past year, grandparents who live with their grandchildren and are responsible for their care, data for people enrolled in school, data for highest level of educational attainment, and as you can see, there's a variety of topics covered: veteran status, disability status, people who have moved in the past year, place of birth, citizenship status, year of entry, and world region of birth and language spoken at home. So just as a quick example here, I'm going to look at veterans living in Citrus County. We can see there's an estimated 18,042 veterans living in Citrus County, or 12.4% of the population. And then I've mentioned margin of error. I'll just explain it here very briefly. All of the information from the American Community Survey is collected through survey methodology, so there's error associated with that way of collecting data. Even though it is a very large survey, there is still error. We report the error at the 90% confidence level. So that means if we add and subtract the 1.5 margin of error from the 12.4%, that would give us a range, and we are 90% confident that the true percent of veterans living in Citrus County falls within that range. So that's what the margin of error is telling you. We do recommend looking at margin of errors, and we'll talk more about ways you can access technical resources to help you learn more about them. And then, just wrapping up here for the data profiles. If you'd like to start drilling into other topics, they're just a click away. So definitely remember those when you're trying to search for ACS data and give them a first glance. Moving on, we did want to show you other ways to go about searching and other products to get into. So for our next example, we're going to look at comparing across geographies in a table. I'm going to pull up a table for median household income across Oklahoma, Tulsa, and a zip code area in Tulsa. And then once we view that data, we're also going to show you how you can save those results. So going back to the site, I'm going to visit data.census.gov to go fresh from the landing page. If you're doing this today, you'll look for the advanced search link below the single search bar. We will be renaming this shortly, so you'll be seeing an Explore Filters button. But as of today, you'll click Advanced Search. You can see already we used that phrase to refer to the filters. And we actually use these in our last example to select the county level geography. So do know that we have filters available for you to select different geographies, topics, surveys, years, and codes. And remember, you click different words and phrases and look for one or more checkboxes as a final selection. I'm going to go ahead and select my geographies first, choosing state on the left, and then drilling in to mark the Oklahoma checkbox. Make sure in the upper left that it's been added as a selected filter. Next, I'm going to choose Tulsa City. So for most states across the United States, what you consider your city or town would be classified as a place. There are a few states, primarily in the Northeast and Midwest, where your town or township is classified as a county subdivision. So in this case, I'm going to drill into place, follow the prompts, choose the Oklahoma, and then go to Tulsa. And notice on the right-hand side, I am leveraging some of these clickable A to Z letters just as a quicker way to navigate the scroll. So we have a variety of ways for you to get to the checkbox you're looking for. That's one of them. So I have my state and my city. The next geography I'm going to select is my zip code area. These are general representations of actual zip codes that the mail delivery routes are based on. And anytime you're accessing data from the American Community Survey, the name of that geography is Zip Code Tabulation Area, or ZICTA. So we do make it easy for you to find by pulling that out as one of the more common geographies that you see here immediately on the left. So once again, following the prompts, it asks for the state. I choose Oklahoma. I get a list of all of the zip code areas in Oklahoma. Another way that you can get to what you're looking for is to click where it says search zip code tabulation area and just type in some of your text. Here I'm going to type in 74137. That is going to narrow that result down. And then the most important thing to do is to remember you do need to mark the checkbox to select it. Great, so I have 3 geographies. I'm going to go ahead and select on the left-hand side a topic to get me to the tables for income for these geographies. So we'll see on the left-hand side there's a topics heading, and we'll follow the prompts, choose income and poverty. Then I'm going to choose income and earnings, and income, households, families, individuals. So 1 topic, 3 geographies. Once you're happy with your search criteria in the upper left, notice in the lower right, there's a button called search. We're going to go ahead and click that. And then I'm going to choose tables at the top. So in this case, there are 434 different table results on income that provide data for at least one of these geographies. The first table, S1901, what I wanted to point out here, we haven't changed the vintage of the ACS estimates yet. The site typically will default you into the most recent available data. In this case, that's coming from the 2024 ACS 1-year estimates. So I get data here for Oklahoma. And as I scroll to the right, I see a column for Tulsa. And then I get to the end of the table. So there's no data for that zip code area, even though I selected it as a geography. Another important tip for the ACS is that ACS 1-year estimates are available for geographies with 65,000 people or more. And ACS 5-year estimates are provided for all geographic areas covered by the ACS down to the block group level, regardless of population size. So most likely, if you're not seeing data for all of the geographies you selected, you need to manually change from the ACS 1-year estimates to the ACS 5-year estimates. And this is where people get hung up quite a bit on our site. There's 2 ways you can do it. On the left side of the table, there's a view all products, and you can switch to the ACS 5-year. As of today, the most recent is the ACS 5-year from the 2023 vintage. 2024 will be released shortly. You can also click the drop-down menu at the top of the table and switch between the different vintages. And by the way, as you scroll down, you'll notice, as I mentioned in the beginning, our data for the ACS goes back to 2010 on data.census.gov. So if you'd like to access historical data, this is also how you would do so. So I've selected ACS 5-year, and I see data for Oklahoma, Tulsa, and I do get data for my zip code area as well. So in the interest of time, I'm going to clear up this table view and simplify to just provide household income. So we can see the data very quickly at a glance side by side. So the left-hand side of the table provides data for different income distributions. Then we see median income, and I've just shown the column that provides household median income. So we can see in Oklahoma overall, it's 63,603. In Tulsa, the estimate is 58,407, and in this zip code, it's 103,963. So we can see median income in this zip code tabulation area is quite higher in comparison. All right, now that we've gone through those steps, I did want to show how to save the results and how to access some technical documentation that's going to help you make sense of the data. First, at the very top where you see the download button, if you'd like to output this information, we provide a couple different ways. I'm just going to show you two of them. One is Excel. So anytime you want something that looks like the table that you're seeing on screen, you'll choose Excel or CSV. You'll follow the prompts and then open up that downloaded file. There are two tabs. The first one gives you some source information. The second tab that says data is what you're most interested in, most likely. And this looks almost identical to what we saw on screen. Our geographies are in the columns. We have nice labels that are readable and indented. And by the way, this format is print optimized. So anytime you want to print a table, downloading to Excel and then printing this sheet is going to be your best option. And then notice that our customizations have also carried over. So I had hid many of the columns of the table, and it's just showing the three that I left prior to clicking the download button. Now, if you're looking to work with the data, maybe you want to map it in your own GIS software or sort the information, you're probably looking for the zip file format. This is a flat machine readable file that includes the GeoIDs. So I'm going to show you that output here very briefly. You'll follow the prompts. It allows you to select multiple vintages. I'm just going to leave it at the 2023 ACS 5-year. And then it's going to give you a zip file. When you open that up, you'll see for each vintage of the table, you get 3 different files. And the one that you're going to be most interested in is the one that ends in -data. Once we open up that file, you're going to get something that looks like this. So rather than see it very readable, what you're going to have is each geography here in this flat file. That means it has its own row. As you follow that row across, there's no special formatting or indentation. But again, if you wanted to work with this in some other program or sort the information, this is going to be a great file format for you. And then just to show you here how you would go about reading the data, we were looking at the household income. So we were looking at the first column and we were looking at the median value. So the way that you go about finding this in the file, it is labeled according to the columns and rows. So in this case, when we get to column AA, you'll see estimate households. This one is mean income. We actually were looking at median. So in column Y, you see median income. That's labeled as S1901. That's the table ID. Underscore C01, that means column 1. Underscore 012, that means the 12th row of data. And then E is for estimate, and M is for margin of error. Other ways that you can output the information. At the top, you'll see an option to share the table. This will give you links to share on social media, as well as a link to this table view. If you visit it later or share it with a colleague, it's going to take someone to the same table and geography selection. We also have citation options available to you in one click. you'll see when you click Cite, there are common formats, MLA, APA, and others, ready for you to copy and paste. And then the last button I wanted to mention here on the table display is the Notes button. So this is very helpful. It gives you links to some very popular resources for the ACS website. And then also when you scroll to the bottom, you'll see explanations for special symbols that you may see in the table display and what those symbols mean. So what I wanted to show you very briefly here is when you click Technical Documentation, that's going to take you to the ACS website. And I just wanted to point out on this website, on this portion of the ACS website, 3 of the resources that we get questions about a lot. So one common is relating to the subject definition. So if you ever have a question about what something might mean in the table, how is household income defined? What do we mean by poverty? There is the ACS subject definitions. This is a couple 100-page PDF that gives very detailed information by what different labels mean in the ACS tables. So I wanted to point that out for you. We also get questions, can I get a list of all of the different tables covered by the American Community Survey? That is accessible to you through the table shells and table list. And then on the right-hand side of the screen, we get lots of questions from people asking, which vintage of the ACS should I use? And can I compare the American Community Survey data over time or to different data sets, such as the decennial census or population estimates program? There is comparison guidance information available to you here. So just wanted to point out those 3 subject definitions, table list, and comparison guidance. There is a wealth of other helpful information on the ACS website that I encourage you to check out. All right, moving on to our next demonstration, we're going to get into more granular geographies here. So in our first example, I'm going to pull up the neighborhood that includes a particular address. So we're going to look at workers by industry for the census tract that covers this address. And if you're lucky enough to be going to the Super Bowl, you'll actually be here at this address in Santa Clara. So let's take a look here back on the main site. The trickiest part for address search right now is finding the geography pin icon to start searching by address. And if you're viewing this webinar in a couple weeks, you'll be looking for below the single search bar a new button that says search by address. So we're working to make it more intuitive for how to start this process. Once you go ahead and click the geography pin icon, it will be very intuitive for what you need to do next. You'll type in your address, and then you need a city, state, or zip code. I'm going to go ahead and put all of that information in and click search. When you find a matching address in our system, you'll be taken to an address result card. So that's what we're seeing here. It is listing all of the different or all of the common Census Bureau geographies that this address falls within. And notice that they're clickable links. So when I hover over one of these, for instance, Census Tract 5050.10, I can go ahead and see that it's clickable. Once I mark that selection and make the click, it is going in the upper left to take me to the all results page for that geography selection. So I can see right off the bat, this filter has been completed for me, and it's been done as if I selected it through the filter in the advanced search filters that we've been using on the left, except in this case, I just needed to know the address, and I didn't need to know which specific census tract this address belonged to. So from here, you can move into the tables and start getting data for this particular geographic area. We can see there's 1,273 total table results, so we probably don't want to search through them all. For our analysis, we were interested in looking at workers by industry. So remember, you still have the filter panel available to you at all times to leverage. Here I'm going to click employment and mark the checkbox for industry. And that's going to take us down from over 1,000 tables to 18 tables on industry for this census tract. So not surprisingly, the data profile comes up as one of the first ones. We know that it covers a wide variety of topics. Taking a quick look here in the industry section of the table, we can see the breakdown of different industries for this census tract, and the highest one is manufacturing. So it says there's an estimated 589 workers that work in manufacturing that live in the census tract, and that comes to about 21.8% of workers that live in this tract. So kind of interesting to see that. If you'd like a little bit more detailed information, that's when you might want to explore tables beyond the data profiles. For instance, maybe you want to know more about, well, what type of jobs are people in this particular industry working in? You can see here S2405 provides industry broken out by occupation for the civilian employed population 16 years and over. So in this case, you'll see there's still a row for manufacturing, again, workers working in that industry. There's an estimated 589. And then we see at the top, there are different columns that provide the occupation. So this is telling us that 60.4% of those manufacturing workers work in occupations for management, business, science, and arts. So maybe they're managers or working perhaps in more of like a headquarters setting. And as we scroll to the right, we see 8% in sales and office occupations, and then 31.6% in actual manufacturing, production, transportation, or material moving occupations. So kind of interesting to see, when you first find workers that work in manufacturing, you maybe think they are factory workers, but they could actually be coming from a wide array of occupations relating to the manufacturing industry as a whole. So that was just one quick example. The ACS provides lots of cross tabulations for you to look at different topics all together in one table. Right, moving on here to our last example, we showed how to search by address and look at data for a census tract. Now we're actually going to visualize census tracts, so you'll get a little bit of a better sense for what these areas represent. And we're going to look at data in bulk. So we're going to look at all census tracts in Marion County from the ACS 5-year data profiles. I'm going to look at the home ownership rate, first visually in a map and then visually in a chart. So back to the site, we'll go to data.census.gov. We're going to go to the filters, and we're going to select our geographic area first. So on the left-hand side, we see census tract. We'll follow the prompts, choosing Indiana, Marion County. And then I'm going to mark this checkbox. It allows me to select all census tracts within Marion County in bulk. And then scrolling down, we've been using topic filters thus far. You can also filter by particular survey. And in the case of the American Community Survey, it will prompt you to choose between 1 and 5-year estimates. In this case, our geography is only compatible with 5-year, so we see 5-year. And then it gives you different types of tables to choose from. When you're creating maps, you'll likely want percentages, so data profiles or subject tables will be a good option for you. And what I also wanted to point out here is that, as you've noticed, when you select one filter and then go to select a subsequent filter on the site, the system is providing you, in most cases, only the options that are compatible with what you've already selected. So if you wanted to select, for instance, a topic or survey filter first, and then select your geography, there is another geography section here called All Geographies. We've been working with the most common geographies on the left. That's going to cover 90%, if not more, of what you might need from us in most cases. But if you want the full list of geographic areas, those are accessible to you by choosing All Geographies. And when you click into the Summary Level tab specifically, this selection all geographies and summary levels is only showing you the levels of geography that are compatible with the ACS 5-year estimate. All other levels of geography that we generally have available on the site but are not compatible with the ACS 5-year estimates data profiles are hidden from view. So just pointing that out, you can find which geographies are available for particular products by choosing this pathway. But going to go ahead and proceed here with the search. Again, I have all census tracts in Marion County and the ACS 5-year data profiles. And I'm going to click on the table first. A couple reasons for this. All of our visualizations are based on the underlying data tables. So you always want to make sure that you're clicked into a table that has data you want to map or chart. And then also I wanted to show you this note. In this case, it says the table's too large to display. It's basically a warning, not a mandate that you can't try to open the table. So anytime you see this, don't be discouraged. Look for the link that says open the table. And in many cases, you'll find it actually will open very quickly for you. All right, so we're in selected housing characteristics. I want to map the home ownership rate, and I just want to find it in this table first. So when I scroll down a bit, eventually I'll see a section of the table called housing tenure, and it gives me data for owner-occupied housing units. So I can see in the first census tract, there are 892 total housing units where the owner is occupying that housing unit, and that comes to about 46.3% of occupied households. And as I scroll across, I can see these data for the different census tracts in Marion County. So really great to have it in a table view, but even more powerful and quick to digest when we map it out. So what you'll notice at the very top of the tabs, there is one for maps. You can map out any geography selection. So I'm choosing census tracts in this case, but if you wanted to map out data for all counties or all states, you have a variety of options available to you. You'll want to make sure on the left that you're still clicked into the table that has the data you want to map. You'll want to make sure the layer has been set to your geography level. In this case, it's happened automatically. We see census tract here in the legend. And if you need to manually change the layer, you can choose the layer button and click into the geographic area that you actually want data for on the map. But in this case, everything has happened automatically. It's zoomed me into the county and I see census tract boundaries. So all I need to do is click the drop-down menu at the top and tell the system out of all of the estimates in the table, which one do I want shown on the map? And you'll see here, they're ordered in the same way that the data rows were in the table. So I scroll down in this list to housing tenure, choose owner occupied. It does default to map out percentages if percentages are provided in the underlying data table. But if you wanted to map out the totals, you could switch the units if needed. I'm going to leave it as is, choose owner occupied, and we will see data for these different neighborhood census tract level geographies. What this is showing us is that areas in darker shades of blue have higher home ownership rates compared to the areas in lighter shades. So kind of looking at a quick glance, not too surprising to see here in Marion County. This is home of Indianapolis, that some of the areas farther away from the city have darker shades of blue. You would kind of expect higher home ownership rates as you go into the suburbs, but kind of interesting to see the trend overall and also see areas that you may not expect. For instance, this particular tract, 3103.11, has an estimated 95.4% home ownership rate, and how it's located directly next to census tracts that have much lower home ownership rates. So kind of interesting to see that on the map. As you zoom in, I mentioned making sense of these areas. You'll see street lines and street labels populate. So if you did this for your county, you would get a sense for what a particular census tract is providing data for and what that area represents. And then moving on to charts, there are a variety of buttons at the top. I'm going to click More Tools and Chart. The way that you go about creating a chart from scratch is almost identical to the way that you would create a map. You would still make sure you're clicked into the table. You would select your geography and you would choose your variable from the drop-down menu at the top. Because our maps and charts are connected, those steps have carried over automatically. So it's still providing us a chart of owner-occupied housing units across each census tract in Marion County. And you can also sort this information in ascending or descending order if you'd like to see it in a list format. So just another way for you to visualize the data and digest things. And that's going to wrap up our demonstration here for American Community Survey data before we start taking questions. I did want to provide a few additional resources. One is if you have feedback about our site or have a data question, you can shoot us an email to census.data@census.gov, and we will respond to you with assistance. We also encourage you to sign up for email updates. You can scan the QR code right now in the upper right, and this will take you to our subscription list where you can choose data.census.gov updates. That will subscribe you to our monthly newsletter where you will learn about the latest educational opportunities, system updates, and data releases to help make the most of the site. What we showed today was a live demonstration. Again, you will have access to the recording and step-by-step slides that walk through the different clicks we made. If you'd like training beyond that, that's more hands-on, our team offers these hands-on workshops. They're offered each month, and they're anywhere from 2 to 3 hours in length. They're free to join. And what you're going to get is a demonstration followed by some hands-on exercises for you to work through and then come together as a group to make sure you got the correct answer. Wanted to mention there are a variety for data.census.gov, including basic, advanced, and mapping on our site. We have a geography essentials for beginners, and then we also have one specifically for finding American Community Survey data. So recommend that you check these out and join us in one of our upcoming workshops. And last thing I wanted to mention here before we turn things over is we also seek help with usability testing. So this would be a structured way for you to give your feedback to us. What we do for these sessions is look for volunteers that are willing to share an hour of their time in one of these. What we would do is ask you to share screen during this session. We would give you a set of exercises to work through, and we would ask you to speak your thoughts out loud as you're completing the exercise. So this allows us to observe how users are thinking about the site and clicking through things intuitively, which give us another source of feedback for us to make improvements. If you'd like to sign up, we have a link here for you to do so. And with that, I will turn things back over to Faith.
Thanks so much, Tyson. And again, in a few moments, we will start going over some of the questions submitted through the Q&A panel. So if you have questions on the updates made to the data.census.gov site, please feel free to submit them now. And but before we do dive into your questions, I want to let you know that we've set up a quick evaluation survey that will pop up when you exit WebEx. When you see the survey window, please just take a moment to share your thoughts with us. We'd love to hear what worked well, what we could do better, and especially any other topics you're interested in learning about in future webinars or workshops. All right, and if you have questions remaining after our session concludes, or if you prefer to email us your question, feel free to reach out to us at the email boxes listed here. If you are a member of the media, please contact the Public Information Office at pio@census.gov. For general data.census.gov questions from the public or for training requests, please reach out to the Center for Enterprise Dissemination. We do look forward to hearing from you. All right, so now we can move on to the questions that we've received. And we have received a lot of great questions, Tyson. So again, thank you so much for everybody for your interest and your engagement. I'm going to go ahead and read our first question. So, excuse me. Are you able to show a map at the county level?
Yes. So and I'm still sharing screen, so you should be seeing the key thing when going to the maps is if you click and select your geography first. The maps work best if you've selected only one level of geography at a time. So here I've started fresh. I'm just going to choose all counties within the US. And then from here, yes, you could certainly choose to map out data for this geography level. We'll give it here a moment to load. In my example with the maps showed census tract, but you can select any geographies individually, or collections are especially useful, and then go to the mapping area and choose to map out data for that geographic level. So this is clicking into data profile 5, and eventually it's going to populate this map with data from this particular table. It is pulling the data in real time, so it may take a moment. But then, yes, all of the concepts that we shared in mapping carry over from any geographic level that you may be interested in. So here we're mapping the percent female across all counties in the United States.
Great, thanks, Tyson. Our next question would be, can the charts be downloaded?
Yes, charts are available to share. We have different screenshots that can be taken of the charts. And then the link to them is shareable as well. And then beyond that, we have been taking feedback to download charts. Currently, we have the visualization options for maps that you can download. So for instance, when you click maps, you'll see a link at the top for print that would actually generate a PDF of this visualization. We are working on considering additional features and functionality, and that has been brought up for charts. So currently you would want to take a screenshot of the chart using your favorite screen capture software. And we don't have a way to export it yet. Thank you for that question.
Sure. The next question is there a geographic feature that offers filters for non-traditional Census Bureau groupings like city neighborhoods?
So all of the geography groupings are grouped by, the Census Bureau geographic areas. So the answer to your question is no. You need to find the Census Bureau defined geographies that most closely match what you're interested in. And if you're having any issues with that, you can shoot us an email, or you can contact our geography department, and we can help you either way, just to make sure that you're accessing the correct area.
All right. And I think that's it for now. So again, thank you so much for all those questions. Unfortunately, that's all we have time for the Q&A today. And if we didn't have time to address your question, we do encourage you to send us an email at census.data@census.gov, and we'd love to help answer whatever questions you may still have. Tyson, I'll go ahead and turn things over to you for your final thoughts. Thank you.
Great, thank you. And thank you all so much for spending again your afternoon with us to learn more about accessing ACS data on data.census.gov. If you'd like to access additional resources, we have a whole suite of educational materials waiting for you, including short video tutorials, full-length recorded webinars, PDFs with step-by-step instructions, answers to your FAQs, and more. You can access them by visiting the link at the top or the QR code. And then again, we are here for your data questions at census.data@census.gov. And then the last thing is that we hope this is the beginning. So we have training opportunities. If you're part of a national organization and would like to request a training on data.census.gov, the application programming interface or API, or our microdata access tool, you can request a training by emailing us at said.cedsci.outreach@census.gov. And beyond that, we also have data dissemination specialists available to provide training as well. So our team that I just shared, that email box, we specialize in those three tools. The data dissemination specialists provide trainings for all things and tools related to the Census Bureau. And then in addition to that, there is a data dissemination specialist assigned to your state. So they are your local resource for all things census data. If you'd like to request a training, you can email them at census.askdata@census.gov or call 1-844-ASK-DATA. This team is also partnering to host the webinar that was provided today, and you can access the centralized hub for Census Bureau training at census.gov/academy. So again, thank you for spending time with us this afternoon. We hope to see you again for future training, and I'll turn things back over to close out. Thank you so much.
This concludes today's webinar. Thank you for your participation. You may disconnect at this time.